Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, December 16th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for December 16th, 2024. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh. I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For consent items, at this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration. And consent items can be found on pages 2 through 6 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone who would like to remove any of the consent items for separate discussion this evening? Seeing no one here. Anyone virtually? Thank you.
No input.
All right, thank you. Okay, back to the table.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are items set for public hearing. We have 4. First is resolution setting a public hearing on a proposed development agreement with Dubuque and Jackson County Habitat for Humanity for January 6, 2025. Second is setting a public hearing on a proposed purchase agreement by and between the City of Dubuque and Tyson's Warehouse LLC, providing for the sale of city-owned real estate for January 6, 2025. Third is proceedings to set public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $24,250,000 general obligation bond series 2025 ABC for January 6, 2025. And fourth is Dubuque Gate and Pump Station flood mitigation, initiate public bidding process and setting date for public hearing for January 21st, 2025.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates specified.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
That motion passes 7-0.
We'll move on to boards and commissions. We have appointments for the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission and the Equity and Human Rights Commission.
All All right, thank you, Adrian. So the first one's a little bit complicated, but not really. So we're going to take them one at a time because I think it'll be a little bit easier to do. It's the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission. The first term that we have to vote on is 1 3-year term through June 30th, 2025. This is the vacant business professional who lives or works inside the cultural district. There are 2 applicants who qualify for this. It's Aaron Hafel and Bree Hernandez. So Adrian, I'll ask you to please call the roll and we can all choose a name there, please.
Wethel,
Aaron Hafel.
Farber,
Bree Hernandez.
Roussel,
Aaron Hafel.
Kavanaugh,
Aaron Hafel.
Sprank,
Bree Hernandez.
Resnick,
Aaron Hafel.
Jones.
Bree Hernandez.
So Aaron Hafel is appointed to the business professional who lives and works inside the cultural district through 2025 term. Next is 1 3-year term through June 30th, 2026. This is the middle column on the sheet that we're all looking at. So Adrian, I would ask that you please call the roll.
Wethel,
Gail Chavanel.
Farber,
Jessica Ochoa.
Roussel,
David Barba.
Kavanaugh,
David Barba.
Sprank,
David Barba.
Resnick,
Jessica Ochoa.
Jones.
David Barba.
So David Barba is appointed to the public member term that runs through 2026. And then the final term is a 3-year term through June 30th, 2027. This is the far right column, so everyone qualifies for that as well. David Barba has been chosen and Aaron Hafel have been chosen. So there are 3 candidates left. Adrian, call the roll, please.
Wethel,
Gail Chavanel.
Farber,
Gail Chavanel.
Roussel,
Gail Chavanel.
Kavanaugh,
Gail Chavanel.
Sprank,
Bree Hernandez.
Resnick,
Jessica Ochoa.
Jones.
Gail Chavanel.
So Gail Chavanel is appointed to the final 1-year term through, or 3-year term, sorry, through 2027. Our next appointment is the Equity and Human Rights Commission, and this is 1 3-year term through January 1st, 2027. And we have 2 applicants, Delano Kane Watson and Tracy Phillipson. So I will entertain a motion here, please. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. We'll do the roll here too as well, please.
Wethel,
Delano Kane Watson.
Farber,
Delano Kane Watson.
Roussel,
Delano Kane Watson.
Kavanaugh,
Delano Kane Watson.
Sprank,
Delano Kane Watson.
Resnick,
Delano Kane Watson.
Jones.
Delano Kane Watson.
So Delano Kane Watson is appointed to the 3-year term through January 1st, 2027.
We will move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium. When the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to, and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Our public hearing this evening is resolution approving a proposed amended and restated urban renewal plan for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Area, version 2024.3.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I move that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
And a motion by Farber, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. I'm just catching up here. Excuse me. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the attached resolution approving an amended and restated urban renewal plan for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Area. The proposed amended and restated urban renewal plan would include new projects and updates to existing projects under the public purpose activities. The following projects are required to be in the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Plan for the planned issuance of debt related to urban renewal activities. They include deconstruction of the ABC Supply Building at 100 South Main Street, upgrades to the dehumidification system at the Iman Arena, implementation of the smart parking system, major maintenance repairs at various parking ramps, renovation of the historic Federal Building, construction of the Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island. The following new projects must be added to the urban renewal plan for the greater downtown urban renewal area to accommodate the anticipated issuance of urban renewal tax increment incentives under the development agreements with the following entities: Limestone Legacy, 1400 Central, Miller Companies, and NIA Neighborhoods Opportunity Zone Fund. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider city council adopt the resolution approving an amended and restated urban renewal plan version 2024.3 for the greater downtown urban renewal area. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here, do we have anyone virtually?
No input.
Thank you very much. Okay, back to the table then for discussion. Seeing and hearing none. The motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel. Barber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
We'll move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the city council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the city council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
All right, we welcome public input this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Clark Slows, 2925 Burlington
Hey,
Street.
Clark, could you pull the mic just a little bit closer to your mouth, just make sure people hear you? Thank you very much.
And what I want to talk about tonight is, I know you're probably in, how should we say, budget discussions. It's that time of year. The thing, it's not the property tax side of it. It's the city utility side of it. Looking at sewer, water, rates like that, combined went up 8.87%. When you compare that to like Alliant Energy or Black Hills Energy, combined, they went up 5.16%. Since, inflation's running at a rate of 2.7%, I'm going to ask this question again in April when the public hearings are. If increases are greater than the consumer price index, there should be a justification of why it is happening. I know in the White Street corridor, Central corridor, we're having that meeting. I was talking to the city manager and kind of briefly touched on this topic, and he pointed out that, well, Alliant Energy's rates are kind of frozen for a 5-year term, but I don't hear the city is willing to do that same thing for sewer or water rates. When you look at people who are on Social Security, the increase was 2.5%. When you look at, basically, when I look at my house insurance premiums, health insurance premiums, increased cost in my medications, that combined total went up at a 14.7% rate. My question is, if you're going to be putting city rates at almost 3.5 times the rate of inflation, how long is this going to continue? Social Security, you're not meant to, how should we say, get rich on Social Security, but you're nice to have a shot at being close to breaking even. Maybe not quite breaking even, but better than right now. I fall $120 a month behind compared to the previous year. If that's going to happen year after year, it's not really sustainable for, how should we say, senior citizens. So that's the concerns I have. The property tax end of it, how should we say, has been, I'm going to say the city has been reasonable. It's been more than open and transparent on what's been happening. In fact, of the big 3 city, county, school board, the city is the most transparent and giving me information. When I've asked for information, I've gotten so much of it, I felt like, almost felt like, how should we say, when the Pentagon Papers came out, you know, should I be actually seeing all this information? So I do commend the city for, how should we say, when someone asks a question, they give you more than enough information to make a decision on. So that's all I got for tonight.
Thank you, Clerk, for your comments. Do we have any other public input this evening? Seeing none here. Do we have anyone virtually? No. All right, thank you, Corey.
No written input.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Okay, we can move on to action items, please.
Action item number 1 is adoption of the 2024 Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Russell, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving the 2024 Development Plan for Chaplain Schmidt Island. In February 2023, DRA hired an Iowa-based RDG Planning and Design to research, develop, and deliver a comprehensive development plan for Chaplain Schmidt Island. The plan defines concrete next steps related to the community's vision of the island being developed as, and I quote, Dubuque's gateway to entertainment and the Mississippi, close quote. As part of this work, RDG was tasked with summarizing existing master plans for the island, as well as completing more detailed studies on the island's current infrastructure, natural resources, development potential, potential economic impact, and more. The visioning and planning work being done by RDG has been overseen by a steering committee to help guide the creation of this development plan throughout the entirety of the process. This steering committee is comprised of representatives from the DRA, City of Dubuque, RDG Planning and Design, AECOM, Strand Associates, and Impact 7G EOC Environmental Group. The steering committee has met weekly for the past 18-plus months and has put together the attached development plan for the island. During this time, the steering committee has brought draft plans to the City Council during public work sessions. Upon completion of a proposed final draft of the development plan, which addresses many of the City Council's goals and priorities, steering committee members conducted public input through multiple channels, a public survey available online, a public open house meeting, and presentation to both the Long Range Planning Advisory Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission. Both the Long Range Planning Advisory Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission unanimously recommended approval of the Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Plan. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. What discussion do we have? Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, just something, I think the plan is good. It's gone through a lot of people. And the one thing I just wanted to ask your opinion, Mr. Van Milligan, and one of the things that we've really depended on was the expertise of Alex Dixon. And he has given us quite a bit of great information and has really spearheaded this and got us going. So a couple things. In your opinion, how is Mr. Dixon's imminent departure going to affect this? And also, is this a proper time to maybe tell us about the next steps in recruiting the next Alex Dixon? Thank you.
Sure. Well, there's nobody that could argue with the fact that it's going to be a huge loss to lose Alex Dixon. I mean, I'd always described him as our Jeff Bezos or our Steve Jobs. I mean, that guy's just a ball of fire and he makes stuff happen. But the beauty of it is he's created a really good team over there. He's also participated in the creation of some very effective processes to keep things moving along. You know, one of the perfect examples is the Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Committee. And so where the mayor and council agreed, and this was a renegotiated lease with Alex and the DRA, that instead of the annual profits at the end of the year being split 2 ways between the city and charities, it would be split 3 ways between the city, charities, and this Chaplain Schmidt Island Development Committee, so that they would have some resources to continue to make things happen. And of course, they stepped up with the DRA and said when the city council wanted to apply for that, to build the $18 million amphitheater on Schmidt Island, and we could get a substantial grant from the Destination Iowa program from the state of Iowa, over $3 million, they required a match. And well, actually, that's a different story. Let me stay with this story. So with the amphitheater story is the city didn't have the resources to retire the debt. So the DRA and the Schmidt Island Development Group agreed if the city would issue the debt, they would retire it. The other story, which is about the match, was when the city wanted to apply for a planning grant to design the 14th Street Railroad overpass. And to be eligible for the ultimate grant of $25 million, first you had to develop a plan, which they were willing to give you a grant to help develop, the federal government, but you had to provide a match. And in that case, the DRA and the Development Committee provided the match so we could get the planning grant. We got the planning grant, we did the plan, applied for the overpass construction money, and we got it. So my point being is, Alex, not only an inspirational leader, but he also understood how to help set up systems that will survive him. So we're going to miss him, but we're grateful for all of that. Then about recruitment. So the DRA has already decided to hire a recruitment firm and go through the same process that got us Alex Dixon 3.5 years ago. So I would say over the next 6 to 9 months that the DRA will be going through this search and application and selection process. And of course, our goal is to get another Alex Dixon, which we all know is not possible, but somebody comparable. And nothing breeds success like success. So I think people are going to look at what's happening on Chaplin Schmidt Island, and quite frankly, what's happening in the rest of Dubuque, and say, I want to be a part of that. So I think we're going to get some really quality candidates.
Great. Thank you for that information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
not only is this a well-thought-out plan and time to approve it, but it was one of our priorities in the last several years to move this forward and advance it. And I'd add a note or two about Alex's departure. Because he was here and because of frankly, the global impact he had on people noticing Dubuque, Iowa, I expect that we're going to get applicants from all over the globe to come and fill this position. There are exactly 2 not-for-profit casinos in the world, and we got one of them. And people are noticing that it's a different model. People that didn't think it was possible to operate one are noticing that it's a different model to the good of the public, to the good of the community, and to the good of the casino itself. So I expect that we're going to see some pretty exciting people, but there's only one Alex, there's no doubt about that. As I've introduced him to people or explained him to people, I always say that a 15-minute meeting with Alex is like a whole week at Disneyland with a normal person, and that's not untrue. So can't wait to support this and see what happens next. I'll also point out we've appointed Brian Rakestraw as the interim director, and he's absolutely capable of running the business and keeping the lights on and making sure the bottom line's okay, because that's what he's been doing for at least a couple, 3 years. He's an incredibly competent, caring guy.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I will point out that a week at Disneyland means different things to different people, so I don't know about the comparison.
So does the 15-minute meeting with Alex.
Ms. Russell.
Thank you. I was really pleased to see all of the citizens that have taken the opportunity to provide input in between the last time and the recent meetings that we had. And I wanted to share some of the great comments that came out of that. And so I'm quoting some of our residents, and thank you for doing that. They said, and I agree, this visionary plan presents an exciting opportunity to transform Schmidt Island into a vibrant destination that will greatly benefit Dubuque's economy and create a lasting legacy for future generations. And I think that person just said it perfectly.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Ms. Wetham.
I also wanted to just mention, again, the time and thoughtful feedback that was provided in written form as well, and to know, to inform everyone that we read that. That's part of what we do in preparation for our vote. Some really specific things that stuck out at me are things that I feel passionately I want to make sure are included, which have to do with restoration of habitat, and some very specific suggestions from folks that are passionate about our habitat and our river as well. So one thing is considering, we've all learned a lot about migratory birds, I think, and thinking of migration, how lighting can reduce impact on wildlife migration patterns, and really trying to, in advance of creating what we're doing down there, let's think this through and do it right. So a lot of great environmental people conscious of what we need to do. So moving forward, I am passionate about that. I want to make sure that this space is restored for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And Eric, I forgot to ask you, we can see ourselves up here on the screen. Would you mind flipping that switch so we don't, it's just terrible to watch my face while I'm talking. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
And also referring to the many comments that came our way through that 10-page email, I just wanted to reinforce the fact that there were several comments about the skating rink, rollerblading, the second sheet of ice, all the things that would be great for visitors and tourists of all ages. And I just wanted to give a shout out to those folks who made those comments, because I do think that that will be eye candy for that part of Schmidt Island and a welcome recreational amenity. Thank you. I look forward to supporting the plan, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farber.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
If I could just add one follow-up comment. The difference between the other 10 cities that we compare ourselves to in all of our benchmarking, particularly on the revenue side, is in fact the DRA, and is going to be Schmidt Island. That's where that puts us in less peril than some cities as the legislature finds their way on what they're going to do with property taxes, which are very unpopular with legislatures, but are the only thing that runs this machine up here, except in our case, the DRA and the funding from our Q Casino, our city-owned DRA-operated Q Casino. It makes a huge difference to our ability to operate and our ability to, in Alex's words, to have the nice things that we deserve. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Frank, go ahead.
The biggest thing I'd like to say is thank you to the citizens that did give us a lot of input, as well as the citizens that reached out to me. I know the hockey moms were really definitely want a second sheet of ice. And after meeting, I went down there April or May it was, for a hockey tournament, just introduced myself to random strangers that I didn't know and folks that were visiting our community. And they really enjoyed that we have a nice facility down there, but they would all love a second sheet of ice. So I think that would be one that I would be eventually pushing for in the future. Otherwise, looking forward to approving this.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague. Well, I actually have several questions. I will say, first of all, that I think this process has been great. I will echo everything everyone has said about Alex and the team he's put together at the DRA and the Q Casino. I think they've been fantastic to work with. We're looking at quite a few staff members here tonight that have been a part of this process too, and I want to thank you for the many, many hours that you've put into this process. I know it's been a lot. This is not a simple plan. It's not an easy one. This is actually a fairly complicated situation to try and move forward with all the various plans that we're working through, and it has taken a lot of steps. It has taken a lot of consulting assistance, not just RDG, but they've definitely carried most of the weight, and I appreciate their work too. I think it's been essential to have that expertise, that outside expertise, to be able to look at this along with the staff members and the DRA as well. So I do thank everyone, and that brings us to the community members and especially boards and commissions. The Parks and Recreation Commission slowed this down a little bit, and I think for good reason. I think they said, we would really like to see some more community input, and I think everybody responded to that very well. Everyone who was on the team that had been talking about this for the last few years. And I was reminded too, when we sit up here and we have these discussions, it feels like everybody's listening to us all the time, sometimes. That, when we have these discussions for long-winded periods of time, that everyone has gathered the same amount of information that we have. And I think it's good to be reminded every once in a while that there needs to be a stopping point where the public definitely has more of an opportunity to jump in and say what they need to say. And I think it's a great reason that we have boards and commissions in the way that we do. I do have a couple questions though, because I think some of the specific comments that came up with the with the community feedback that we got, I think are broader questions that I want to make sure we address before we approve this. Because I do want to vote for this tonight. I do plan to vote for it tonight. But I want to make sure that we say out loud, when we have a plan like this, and it's got all these different multiple pieces, it doesn't mean that it all just starts happening tomorrow. For instance, let's say housing, where housing currently doesn't exist on the island. It is an idea, and it is in the plan. And we are saying that in general, we are moving forward with that idea that that's a possibility, but we aren't necessarily saying we're going to start building housing tomorrow in that spot. So, Mike, I would actually appreciate your comments on this because I'd like to just hear a little bit more about the process that we follow. Because in my mind, what I'm looking at here is, we have a plan that we're going to use as a structure for the things we're going to talk about. But we still have to talk about how that fits into budgets every single year, how that fits into our goals and priorities that we set every single year as they get more specific to the things on the island. So any comments you have on that I think would be helpful.
Yes, thank you, and it's an excellent point. So in the plan, it shows a quote-unquote schedule, but the schedule is in 6-year increments. So it doesn't say this is getting built in 1 year. It says the goal is to make this happen in the next 6 years. And then another thing might say the goal is to make it happen in year 7 through 13. So we had, city staff had an hour-and-a-half meeting this morning reviewing all that list and talking about the fact that many of these things are going to take capital improvement program budgeting by the city for it to even have a chance of happening. So let me give the example that you gave, which is the apartments. Of course, the apartments would be built by a private party. But between the apartments and where there's a potential expansion for the ice arena, I think they'll take $4 million in fill to bring it to the height above the floodplain that it's developable. And so between the city potentially having some obligation to that and working with a developer at some point, somebody's going to have to figure out how to pay for that. And you could just keep going on down the line for all those kinds of things. And so one of the columns in this document shows who potentially is going to be a contributor to pay for this thing. And it's quite common for that box to show public, private, not-for-profit, philanthropic, grants. So it's multiple funding sources that are all have to be put together like a puzzle to make many of these things happen. And we're all going to work really hard for that. It's a mayor and city council priority. We've got some momentum. Everybody wants to keep that going. But it's going to be complicated, expensive, and it will take some time.
Yeah, thank you for that context. And I think your head went to the same place mine did with the chart that was on there and the prioritization schedule. And I noticed right off the bat, there's a whole lot of things in 0 to 6 years that we really want to try to accomplish. And, I think it's a good time to be able to do a gut check and say, yeah, we need to keep our foot on the gas and we need to keep doing these things as much as we possibly can. But we can't do it alone as a city government. And I want to make sure that everybody recognizes the pressures that governments are under in these cases too. That we're in a very dynamic environment right now. There is a lot of change on the public side of things and on the public financing side of things. Our federal government is about to change drastically from what we've all gotten used to for 4 years. Trust me, I'm not saying that's either good or bad. I'm saying it's going to change. And we have to figure out what that means as a city so that if there are dollars to access to be able to do projects like this, we have to figure out how to access them. We've been pretty good at that in the past, but it's going to be really, really different. If you just read the news for a day and you'll see how different it's going to be. And I think that's important to recognize. We also routinely talk about the fact that our state legislature wants to do a number of things. They want to cap property tax rates. So we have, as a city, are very limited on what the choices we can make and where property taxes are going to go. There's just going to be a ceiling we're going to hit if that's the way things go. And I think the conversation that was just started here, honestly, about utility rates is another one. That's also something that's being discussed with the state legislature. It all affects the money that we have to work with to be able to do these projects. And as much as I want to just say, hey, let's go, let's get this done, let's get all the partnerships and put them in place and make sure that this all happens by year 6, I would love to see that. I would love to have a fully lighted Wisconsin bridge in 6 years with all these great things, all built around conservation in the way that Ms. Wethel described. That is the perfect ideal. And I think we should strive for it. But I want us to make sure that we're also keeping each other in check and saying, we have to do this within reason, along with all the other projects that we're doing. And I think that we will do that, and I think we can do that. And I think this is still going to be very, very exciting. But I wanted to bring it up because I think some of the comments that I was reading sort of alluded to the fact that we're just going to ram this through and do whatever we want. And that's definitely not the case. That's definitely not how this works. And hopefully the process up to this point is a great indication of that. I mean, we do a great job of having full community discussions about things like this. So all that said, I am definitely voting for this. I do think the work up to this point has been phenomenal in getting where we are. And I'm really looking forward to being able to continue to work towards these things and make these hard decisions so that we can keep pushing forward and build an island that we are all very, very excited about down there.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Just one last comment along those lines, too. Almost any master plan is trying to focus on the identification of opportunities and partnerships. And for the opportunities to occur, you need the partner. So we've got a roadmap here to get us to a lot of places, but we're going to need the private sector to come in and say, yeah, I'd like to partner with you on improvements in a marina or in a hotel complex, or the one alluded to, the apartments. All of those things require someone else to come to the table. And one of the objects of a master plan is to say, here's all these things that we can put on the table. Come talk to us. So I guess that's important, that we have to understand that we need the partners to step up to the opportunities to make them work. Some of these things work.
Yeah. And not to put you entirely on the spot, but you know what? You deserve it because you've done it to me so many times, Alex. I'm going to put you right on the spot just because I know you just walked in the room. You don't need to come up. It's fine. You can stay there. But we've all been saying some really nice things about you, and I know you're a busy man. You got a lot of things going on, so thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. But I just wanted to make sure you heard thank you from us for all the work that you've done. We're about to vote on the master plan or the development plan right now for Schmidt Island. And so far I'm hearing pretty positive comments about the whole thing. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you. But you've been an incredible asset to us here in Dubuque. And I'm glad that you're here, that we get a chance to say that to you personally. I know that I've said that to you personally already, and a lot of us have already individually, but it's nice to be able to say it publicly. So thank you for all that you've given to Dubuque and all you'll continue to give to Dubuque. And we've really appreciated having you here. All right. Motion here on the table is to receive and file and adopt this resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island Project Bid Package Number 2, Award Public Improvement Contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
a motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. The City of Dubuque applied for a Destination Iowa Outdoor Recreation Fund grant administered by the Iowa Economic Development Authority on March 10th, 2023. The city was notified of the grant awarded by the IEDA for the Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island, and that the amount of grant funding would be $3 million, with a local match of $12,442,961 for a total project cost of $15,442,961. Funding for the local match and the required amount of $12,442,961 is as follows. Greater Downtown Tax Increment Financing Taxable Debt, $8,784,961. DRA contribution, $3,658,000. The project vision is to create Schmidt Island as Dubuque's gateway to entertainment on the Mississippi. and was set forth in a Schmidt Island Master Plan developed in 2014 and updated in 2017, and also in the Schmidt Island Placemaking and Implementation Plan adopted in June 2017. The most recent Schmidt Island Master Plan amendment, and actually it's not the master plan, I'm sorry, it's the development plan amendment, appears elsewhere on tonight's agenda, which the mayor and city council just approved. The mission adopted for this exciting project is to create a connected island that welcomes visitors and the community to recreation, entertainment, and the outdoors. The city and DRA are partnering on this impactful project to create a unique and exciting gateway into Iowa that will help grow the economy across the state, build upon current outdoor recreational amenities already on the island, connect people to new economic opportunities, and attract tourists from all over the nation. The overall project addresses the master plan, creative placemaking goals, and a top priority of the Dubuque City Council: increase foot traffic on Schmidt Island, build a recreational landmark, and create a gateway and the front door to Iowa and Dubuque. Bring people to Schmidt Island, leverage island programming for economic development, connect the island to Dubuque and the region, create a year-round destination, and create opportunities for education. The open-air performance amphitheater will attract A and B national acts, as well as be a venue for local symphony, college, and university performing groups, nonprofit events, and regional performances. The stage will be constructed with an artful stage canopy that will help create a sense of place, enhance acoustics, and protect performers from sun and weather. The amphitheater is planned as a versatile space to host varied audiences and sized for regional acts of up to 2,500 people and for national acts of 5,000 to 8,000 people. The three main components of the outdoor amphitheater are: one, open-air shelter with stage that will accommodate varied audience sizes from regional events up to 2,500 people to national acts of 5,000 to 8,000 people, with built-in flexibility that will open up the facility for a variety of events and destination activities. Number two, flexible open space to utilize the amphitheater for local events and activities, in addition to a concert series with the ability to host local food trucks and experiential activities such as regional poetry events, arts and crafts festivals, sidewalk chalk competitions, and so on. Number three, ADA compliant outdoor amphitheater with ADA compliant connecting spaces leading to the amphitheater from other areas on the island. The Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island project was bid as two separate public improvement contracts. Bid package number one, which was demolition and mass grading, and tonight's bid package number two, utilities, paving, and the amphitheater stage. Bid package number two was previously bid and contract was awarded on October 21st. Eastern Iowa Excavating and Concrete submitted the low bid in the amount of $819,676.45, which was 20% under the estimate of probable cost. This bid package included the demolition and removal of existing structures, including the dog kennel buildings, site clearing, and mass grading for the amphitheater. Bid package number two, which is being considered tonight, includes all the remaining work to construct the amphitheater project, including sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water main utility work and plumbing, electrical controls and lighting, structural foundations, food and beverage facilities, parking and walkway paving, stage and artful canopy, newly located maintenance building, and irrigation final grading and landscaping. The city received sealed bids on December 5th, 2024 for the Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island project bid package number two. Conlon Construction submitted the low bid in the amount of $8,169,000, which is 16% under the estimate of probable cost. The bid proposal for the bid package number two project included a list of desired add-on amenities that were not included in the base bid estimate. The add-on amenities were developed to enhance the overall project. The list of add-on amenities is as follows. Number 1, entrance cut walls. Number 2, parking lot enhancements. Number 3, decomposed granite pathways. Number 4, replace seating with sod. Number 5, stage rigging. Number 6, drum lighting. And number 7, concrete paving reinforcing. And the next is a chart which summarizes all these different bids on all these different add-on amenities from the different contractors and shows you the totals of those. City Engineer Gus Zahoyas recommends awarding the public improvement contract for the Iowa Amphitheater on Schmidt Island project, bid package number 2, to Conlon Construction in the base bid amount of $8,169,000, and due to savings in the award of bid package number 1 and bid package number 2, include in the bid award amenities 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 in the amount of $1,104,538 for a total award of $9,273,538. Add-on amenities, the 2 add-on amenities which are not included would be stage rigging, amenity number 5, and drum lighting, amenity number 6, and they could be added to the project by change order if the project budget allows at a later time. The project funding is summarized as follows. The $3 million Destination Iowa grant from the state of Iowa, $8,784,961 of TIF debt being issued by the city, $3,658,000 as a local match from the DRA, and then there are $310,000 of non-eligible city funds that will be spent for portions of the project, which is mostly the activities of the staff to design and the project, along with our partners at RDG, of $310,000. So it makes the total project funding of $15,752,961. The Greater Downtown TIF taxable debt will be paid by the Dubuque Racing Association. Additionally, in accordance with the Destin Iowa grant agreement, the DRA will be contributing $3,658,000 upfront as part of the local match for the overall project. The items associated with the DRA local match funds include deconstructing the current dog track and kennels to provide the location where the new amphitheater will be constructed. The use of remaining DRA funds associated with the local match are to be used in the vicinity to enhance the overall amphitheater project. City expenses for construction, administration, engineering, and inspection services are not grant eligible and are not directly reimbursable and cannot count toward the local match. The non-eligible city expenses will come from the fiscal year 2025 anticipated revenue from the new bank services agreement. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none. Well, Mike, I think we appreciate the detail that you put in the memo. It definitely covered a lot of the bases, things we've been talking about again already for a number of months, if not years, but definitely quite a bit of detail in there. I will say the drummers at the table are a little hurt that the drum lighting was left off the list, but we'll get over it, Gus, so thank you very much. Any further discussion before I?
The only thing I would say, Mayor, about the further discussion point is since you just approved the development plan and had a thorough discussion about that, this is just partial implementation of the development plan. So you had pretty much extensive discussion on this. And of course, with the previous work sessions and the public hearing on the plans and specifications, you've had multiple meetings and discussions about this project.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Mike. We sure have. All right. Yeah, Mr. Esmond.
Just a quick question about the stage rigging. Last time Mr. Dixon spoke with us, he talked about how they do rent the stage rigging. Is that correct? And I'm just curious about the price of that, the stage rigging per event, because we estimated it as under $300,000. And in reality, it's really expensive, more than double than, almost triple than what our estimate was. So you're successful in obtaining the stage rigging, and could you give me a ballpark of what you have to pay? Is it like $10,000 per event or what?
Alex Dixon, President and CEO, Q Casino Resort and DRA, at 251 Hidden Oaks Court here in Dubuque. You hit right on the head. We had a little bit of sticker shock when we saw the rigging price versus the estimate that was initially outlined. And so part of what we wanted to do is we selected some of the other alternates in there of, let's say, like the best way to describe it is we wanted to make sure that the parking lot, when you drove to this beautiful new amphitheater, we got that done, and that price looked better than the price that we saw for the rigging. And so we're hoping that as we de-scope with the contractor to understand where the big delta is, that we might be able to get that price or that number to make sure that we're not talking past each other. What we do believe is that potentially with some of these rigging, there may have to be some structural or foundational things that we didn't think about when we selected some of these rigging packages. So you can imagine if you have to tear or tie these down in such a way that it may not be just the rigging, it may be some of the support and infrastructure around it. So to that end, we said, let's take the alternates that have a lower price. And again, by say we, this is really all city staff. So a lot of this stuff I talk about, that it's really the city staff who's doing all this. But in this case, that rigging number, we said, hey, something's got to be off. So instead of committing ourselves to it, we said, let's take a deep breath. If we have to keep renting for a while, we will do so, because the ROI, it puts it out to be a number of years when that equipment is that big of a price tag. There's nowhere near what we use to rent in the case of this rigging equipment. So I don't want to quote misquote the price of what we pay on a per show basis, but it just didn't make financial sense to commit ourselves to that number when we think there's some alternates. So let's hope that eventually we can get a permit rigging system out there, but for right now we decided to pass.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All right, well, motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is resolution approving an amended and restated development agreement with Walter Development, LLC.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second?
Motion by Jones, second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the attached resolution approving the amended and restated development agreement with Walter Development, LLC. Duluth Holdings has closed its operation in Dubuque and terminated its lease with Walter Development for the industrial facility. The attached amended and restated development agreement removes Duluth Holdings from all rights and responsibilities under the terms and conditions of the agreement. This will allow Walter Development to lease the industrial facility to another employer and continue to maintain at least 12 new full-time positions at the facility. Additionally, as the minimum improvements detailed in the agreement have completed by Walter Development, the penalty for not completing these improvements has been removed from the agreement. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All right, motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is Ruby Sutton Building second floor renovation project award public improvement contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel?
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. The city received sealed bids on November 21st, 2024 for the Ruby Sutton Building second floor renovation project. Ports and Construction submitted the low base bid in the amount of $739,000, which is 7.6% below the engineer's estimate of probable cost. City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council award the public improvement construction contract for the Ruby Sutton Building second floor renovation project to Ports and Construction in the base bid amount of $739,000 and the alternate bid number 1 elevator for the total bid award of $1,034,000 through the adoption of the attached resolution. The Ruby Sutton Building is part of a larger combined facility connected to the Multicultural Family Center. The current Ruby Sutton Building first floor is about 6,600 square feet. The second floor is approximately 2,600 square feet. The expanded second floor facility improvements will feature the following amenities: a collaborative workspace with presentation equipment, a kitchenette to provide staff with space for refreshments and meals, a small meeting and conference room, 1 individual family-style restroom, a reception area to greet guests, 5 offices large enough to accommodate small meetings, a 10 by 25 deck from the back on the roof section of the first floor, a skylight to maximize the introduction of natural light. As part of the project, the bid documents included an alternate bid number 1 to provide a cost to install an elevator that would provide service to the second floor and basement. Based on the bids received, sufficient funding has been identified from unbudgeted fiscal year 25 cash management interest from the new banking services agreement to proceed with alternate bid number 1, the elevator option at this time. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion do we have? Seeing none?
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm glad that we included that alternate bid with the elevator, make it accessible. That building's going to get a lot of use, and people of all abilities will be wanting to go up and down those elevations. So thank you for adding that. I noticed that we are putting good use to the money saved on the new the banking agreement, which is, as it should be. So this is an excellent use for those funds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. All right, well, motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprague.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is Leisure Services Comprehensive Master Plan Consultant Selection Approval and Authorization of Contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I move that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Farber, second by Sprague. Mike, please.
Thank you. Leisure Services Director Marie Ware is recommending City Council approval of Kimley Horn for the Leisure Services Comprehensive Master Plan and authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute the contract for services. In October of 2024, the City Council authorized the request for proposals for Leisure Services Comprehensive Master Plan Consultant Services to be posted and initiate the consultant selection process. Kimley Horn is a multidisciplinary planning and engineering firm that has provided master planning services across the United States. The team of experts proposed for our projects brings experience and expertise in parks, recreation, and open space projects for system-wide master planning. They bring together sub-consultants Ballard, King and Associates Limited and ETC Institute in the areas of strategic planning and a statistically valid survey respectively that complement the proposal. Their internal team brings experts in GIS mapping, public engagement, park inventory, analysis and assessment, natural resources and arborists, and the project manager to cover all aspects outlined in the RFP. Kimberly Horn laid out the most detailed approach and plan that best meets all the criteria within the RFP, specifically calling out their experience with ARPA-funded projects to the clear understanding for the need for creative and extensive community engagement. Within their proposal, there was detailed and flexible processes that can be adjusted to ensure the greatest impact through community engagement, planning, and recommendation. They wanted to meet people where they are throughout the project and included numerous ideas of making the outreach and engagement fun. The ideas related to youth engagement were fresh and fun. They included a significant amount of consultant hours dedicated to the project compared to other proposals. During the interview process, the committee was very impressed with Kimley Horn's attention to detail and clarity. Their process outlined establishing a shared vision for the plan, inventory and benchmarking, business planning, trend analysis, incorporation of past and current city planning, leadership engagement and interviews, engagement of the staff whom are our boots on the ground, equitable public outreach, interactive tools, website and social media campaign, stakeholder and user group interaction through interviews, workshops, pop-up events and virtual workshops, parks and facility as well as natural resources inventory and assessments, park walkability and trails mapping, reviews of operation structure, maintenance operations, funding strategies and opportunities, levels of service review, capital improvement plan, and more. Key elements of the comprehensive plan will be a needs assessment, a strength, opportunities and threats analysis, existing facility inventory and conditions, program offerings analysis, public input, history, existing plan review, demographics, benchmarking, staffing assessment, and level of service. All elements will combine to create a review and roadmap for the future of the department, programs, park, open spaces, and facilities. The RFP proposal outlines the work plan of projected tasks and steps. These will be further defined as the planning process begins. The planning would begin in January of 2025 and be concluded in early January of 2026, with City Council considering the final plan. Funding is budgeted in the Parks Division and the Recreation Division for this project. The total funding available is $396,000. With the City Council high priority of Parks Maintenance Refresh Action Plan, an additional request of $50,000 is being made in the fiscal year 26 budget request process. As this project is ARPA funded, a contract will be executed before year end. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Questions or discussion? Mr. Sprang?
Not really a question, just I know that citizens always reach out to me, why do we spend so much money on consultants? When we have over 50 parks, we need to know what's going on in each and individual park. This is a huge project for any firm, and the fact that they are very detailed and organized really has me excited to know that we will actually have a true assessment of our many, many parks. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this in another year. I know it's going to take time, but I'm patient with this one, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, I hope that you will allow Ms. Ware to come up and talk to us perhaps about this plan, and with this exhaustive list of particulars, I was hoping that she might be able to give sort of an executive summary for the citizens, you know, what this will actually mean to the citizens of Dubuque once we get this going, lined up, and moving in a positive direction.
Sure.
Thank you. Marie Ware, Leisure Services Director. This is a really great look back of where we are. Like, we hear a lot of feedback from the community about areas where they might think we're falling down, areas they think we're doing very well at, suggestions, and all of that leads us to what's for the future. And as we've talked so much about equity, we also have to look at it like many times we're asking those people who come to the normal meetings, come to the normal ways of giving feedback and input. And there's a great emphasis on this planning effort in our look ahead about being able to make sure that we listen to all age groups and neighborhoods and all those different things that everyone comes to say, hey, these are our public spaces. This is what we'd like to see in the future. Or maybe they lived somewhere else. And they're like, we had da-da-da where I used to live. I really wish we'd have that here in Dubuque. And it's a way to be able to set the department into the future and also give you, as those decision and policy makers, feedback about how do we benchmark? What do we look like compared to, we a lot of times talk, and you've talked tonight about other cities we normally compare ourselves to. So we have kind of that normal group. Well, how do we really compare when it comes to our Parks and Recreation very specifically? So this really hones into that. It looks at our programming. So it really takes a very comprehensive look at all of the things that we have to offer, but is going to be something that really outlines where you go to the future. What are people's priorities? Let's make sure we've heard from as many of you as we possibly can. And it's a really, it's kind of a bummer for me because I'll be leaving, but on the same token, it's actually great timing because as you have a new leader that stands in my position, we're talking about a roadmap. We're talking about something where if it defines things that we need to work on, that individual and the leadership team that I have will be continuing. So it gives them the opportunity to be able to go, okay, now how do we work on that? We've heard this, we see that, how do we work on that? And when you look at documents that other cities have done, I mean, this is not just some little bitty report. This is like a 600 to 700 page report that goes very in depth, really looks at every single one of our spaces in our areas, gives us a true assessment of what that is, gives us those dollar figures, but also what does the public feel? So hopefully that kind of answers your question of how it really is a look back, but really a lot of it is a look forward and helps decision makers like yourself determine, okay, well, what do we think we need to prioritize? Or I've been hearing that from people, but now I know a lot more, which helps me to make better decisions or people in our spots to make better decisions as well.
Thank you very much. Thank
You're
you, Mr.
welcome.
Mayor.
Thank you, Marie. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good outline of what we're expecting here and what we're voting on. So I'm looking forward to seeing this move forward. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 6 is Hawks Goodman and Associates Independent Contractor Agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I recommend we receive and file and approve.
Second by Sprague.
Got a motion by Wethel, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. Terry Goodman is an accomplished professional in developing strategic partnerships. She has been performing at a very high level over the last 35 years, first with implementation of the America's River Project in the Port of Dubuque, including the Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium and the Grand River Center, and then with many city projects as she joined the city as Assistant City Manager for Strategic Partnerships. It is estimated that Terry has been involved in getting the city of Dubuque and organizations in the city of Dubuque upwards of $1 billion in grants in her career. Now that Terry has retired from her position at the city, she has started a private business, and the city has an opportunity to contract with her firm to still assist with strategic partnerships at the federal level. The annual cost would be $40,000 plus reimbursement for actual and reasonable costs of travel expenses and meals for travel expenses directly tied to the compensable contractor services. I am still developing a strategy to identify a method to continue to nurture strategic partnerships at the state level. I respectfully recommend Mayor and City Council approval of this agreement.
All right, thank you, Mike. Ms. Farber.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate that Ms. Goodman has agreed to continue to work on behalf of the city of Dubuque, which she has served for so many years and has really been our guiding light, if you will, with legislative agendas and with the relationships that we have today on Capitol Hill are basically because of her and her relationships. So we are greatly appreciative of her work, and I personally look forward to continuing to work with her next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Well, yes, absolutely. This is great news that we're able to move forward with Terry in this way. Sincerely appreciate all of her service and the continued service that she'll give in this capacity. I mentioned this a little bit in an earlier action item, but I just want to point out when it comes to this particular issue of advocacy on the federal and state level, it's the unknowns that make me the most nervous right now. And I think that that's what is most challenging for any local government is what are we about to do and what are we about to be looking at? And I think, Mike, you and I have had a conversation or two about this particular topic and what to do next after Terry's stepping away. As I'm already planning some trips to both Washington and Des Moines in the beginning of the year, one of the things I want to make sure that I tell the rest of the council here and you too, Mike, is that, as I do this, I'm going to be watching very carefully about where things are moving and how we can work best as a city and as a city council, how I can work best in my role and then, help all of us to work as well. And as I do that, one of the things I want to make sure we're focused on is, we've got a very short window of time between now and the next budget cycle to really start to think about what's coming up next and how can we do this. And if something needs to change, if we need, because Terry's going to do a great job. In no way, shape, or form am I even coming close to questioning that. We all know how well she's going to perform in this role. But my one big concern is it going to be enough for what we need as a city? And that's one of the things that I want to make sure we're focused on as we do this work. And I know that Terry will be very adept at being able to point out the ways in which we might be falling short or anything that we could be doing more. But I do think it's an important question because the way we've performed in the past has been predicated on the connections that Ms. Farber pointed out and the relationships we've been able to form and making sure that we have just all the things we need to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders on this front, because I think we're really going to need to. I don't have enough information currently to say this is what we're going to need. And that's the part that makes me really nervous. And I don't like that at all. But I do think that it is something we need to be careful as we move forward and watch, because I do think we're going to need to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can as a city to advocate in all the directions we need to. Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, I just want to add that based on all the work that we have done and we will continue to do that, we have a really solid relationships with our current legislators.
Yeah.
And I think, and we can talk about this later, the fact that Senator Grassley and the governor were just here recently, and that you offered them housing on a regular basis because the governor is here so frequently that we can, have that conversation later. But I really think that because of what's been done in the past, I think that our pathway is pretty positive. And I think that we have all of the opportunity, I think, that any other municipality would have at this point in time. But for us, it's very unique because we have really bonded well, I think, with the representatives, not only the state representatives here within the state of Iowa, but also those on Capitol Hill. So I'm very positive about that. I think that we have Terry to guide us and to give us, she's a great coach. And I think that's one of the assets that she can provide and one of the skills she can provide us. And then we will hopefully do our due diligence and make everybody proud and serve Dubuque really well as we continue to keep those doors open. So I'm a little Pollyanna about this, and I think it's a good step forward for us. We'll be fine.
And I think those are all really good points. I think what I'm pointing out here is that, as much as we possibly can, I hope we can be nimble and flexible and make the changes we need to when we need to make them in order to be able to do all the things we need to be doing. That's my biggest concern to move forward. And I believe in us to be able to do that. I trust in us. I trust in Mike, your leadership as a city manager, all the staff being able to be able to say what we need and do those things. It's more the unknowns. There are many knowns. It's known that Governor Reynolds is going to get an apartment in Dubuque because she's here so often. She said so the other day. So that's great. But, no, that's a joke. But it is, there are some knowns, but it's the unknowns that do make me nervous. And I look forward to having Terry continue to be with us in this capacity to help guide us in this. Okay. Well, motion here is to receive and file and approve this agreement. So, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 7 is controlled livestock grazing ordinance amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
Move to receive and file the communications, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second.
Motion by Jones, second by Wethel. And Adrian, I'm coming to you on this one.
Yes, thank you. So this proposed ordinance amendments basically making two changes to our controlled livestock grazing program. First is we want to remove the timeframe restriction saying that grazing and associated enclosures are not allowed at a location for more than 30 days. This is just to allow some more flexibility in the program, recognizing that the maximum time frame will vary based on the size of the property. So we just felt that it wasn't necessary to codify the requirement, but actually use the verbiage in the program rules to specify timeframes, and recognizing that it will be more on a case-by-case basis based on the size of the property. And the second is a very minor change, just replacing the term policy with program to be consistent in the terminology that's used throughout the section. So that's essentially it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Do you have any questions? Yeah, Mr. Rez.
Just quick, and you, so thank you for this work, and did you also then send it to legal counsel for us to look this over, the ordinance, or, so it has been gone through by legal as well?
We had a work group who worked on it, talked through it, talked about adjustments, lessons learned since it went into effect in 2018, et cetera.
Thank you. I did not know that we had this ordinance about, grazing animals and things in livestock here in the city. Now, this is in the city of?
Correct. It's for businesses operating grazing programs within city limits. We currently have one business, Goats on the Go, who is licensed.
Oh, there you go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And if you haven't watched those goats, you need to.
Yeah, they're fun.
It's an absolute blast.
Awesome.
Any other questions or? Okay. And thank you very much, Adrian, for all the detail on this. I think the memo was very helpful too. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
The motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 8 is ordinance number 52-24-A, correcting the title of ordinance number 52-24.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council approve the ordinance 5224A, which amends the existing ordinance to create the ordinance title by removing property from the Division of Revenues in the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Area. City Council adopted ordinance 5224 on September 3rd, 2024, to remove property from the North Cooper Boulevard sub-area of the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal Area. Subsequently, the documents were forwarded to the county auditor, where staff identified a Scrivener's error in the title of the ordinance. The previous ordinance title stated the area was being expanded to include the Roosevelt Street subarea. The content of the ordinance nor the supporting documentation associated contained this error. I concur with the recommendation and respect for the request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Seems pretty straightforward. Any discussion? Okay. Motion is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
The motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 9 is ordinance number 53-24-A, correcting the title of ordinance number 53-24.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council approve ordinance 5324A, which amends 5324 to correct the ordinance title by adding the Hawthorne Street subarea and the Locust Street subarea to the Division of Revenues in the greater downtown urban renewal area. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion on this one? All right, the motion here is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank. Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Russell, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank. Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 10 is proposed ordinance change to update the rental license cycle to 2 years.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Russell. Mike, please.
Thank you. Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Stager is recommending City Council approve an amendment to Ordinance 14-1J-3 rental licenses to implement a 2-year rental license cycle. The ordinance for rental license establishes the requirements for rental license and inspections. The proposed change aligns the rental license requirements in the ordinance with the proposed 2-year rental license and inspection program. Additionally, the ordinance changes clarify the requirement that a property owner who does not reside within 50 miles of the licensed rental property is required to designate a responsible agent who does reside within 50 miles of the property to ensure a timely response to property-related issues. A key feature of the revised model is the allowance of landlords in good standing to self-inspect their properties by following a city-provided checklist. If the properties are determined to meet the code through this inspection process, landlords can self-certify compliance. This self-certification can only be done once during every other 2-year cycle. This approach enables staff to focus efforts on properties and owners and agents where they are most needed, that still perform in-person inspections at least once every 4 years on all properties. To spot check self-inspections, 1% of units, self-inspected units, will be randomly selected for a follow-up in-person inspection. This 2-year model was presented to the Dubuque Area Landlords Association on July 23rd, 2024, and to the City Council on August 5th, 2024. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
I just wanted to thank the staff and really support the self-certification process that they have put into this ordinance. It has 2 features that I think are important. One is that if you're a very sincere landlord and keep things up to speed, then you're, if you will, the inspection is less frequent. And I think you're part of the inspection process to begin with anyway. So I think that is wonderful. And then I also think that it is a workforce enabler, and it really helps us with the staffing, and it gives them an opportunity to optimize the number of employees that we have and direct that energy and the workforce in other directions. So we're really saving, we're being in expanding the capability and the efficiency of the workforce. So I'm very pleased to see this.
Ms. Farber?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
It was just 8 or 9 months ago, we were in budget hearings in this room, and a lot of citizens were asking for a 2-year cycle. And our staff said, hey, we're easing our way into that. We're moving that direction. The next couple of years, we hope to get there. And look at here, they got there without an ordinance change back in April. They got here because we believed in, they told us what they were going to do, and we believed in them, and they did it. So I wholeheartedly support this. This is a great ordinance. I agree with everything Susan just said. That's a great change to allow the landlords who have shown us their competencies at delivering safe, code-compliant properties to self-check every other certification period. It just all makes sense. It's a great piece of staff work to get us here.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about this as we go through budget hearings and have more detail from the Housing and Community Development Department. It will be great to see how this is working because I am excited to be able to institute it for sure. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Jones, second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 11 is work session request, capital improvement project GIS application.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and set the work session for 6 p.m. on January 21st.
Second.
Motion by Resnick, second by Jones. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick. Jones.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
And Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Farber.
So as a longstanding trustee of the University of Dubuque, it is just really my pleasure to give a shout out to both John and Alice Butler for their wonderful donation to the University of Dubuque and for the naming of the new osteopathic medicine school on their behalf. It is just really incredible, their generosity and their dedication, if you will, to the university. And John has been a member of the board for over 40 years and just really has done so much for not only for the rest of us as trustees, he's been a great role model for us, but he's also been a role model for philanthropy here in the city. And the university is just ever so grateful. It is a game changer, as Mike has said. It will be an opportunity to have 400 to 800 students at one point in time in the university, which will create needs for housing and do basically some economic development for the city of Dubuque. And it was a pleasure to have both Senator Grassley, who has been a friend of the Butlers for maybe 3 or 4 decades as well, to join us, and also for the governor. And I thought it was just great that she has volunteered to get an apartment here in Dubuque because she does so much business with us. So I just wanted to give them a shout out because it's really so wonderful and just at a great inflection point, I think, for the city of Dubuque and also for the ever-changing and evolving University of Dubuque, which I'm very proud to serve on their board.
Thank you, Ms. Farber.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I was at the announcement and reception for the University of Dubuque this week as well, and I got the invitation and I thought, transformational announcement. I thought, what's transformational? And I've got a lot of great faith in the University of Dubuque. They have transformed themselves over the last decades into an incredibly viable and forward-thinking institution. But I got to tell you, I was knocked out of my seat. That was a really great announcement, and congratulations to everybody involved. Want to just shout out to all our public safety entities. Sunday afternoon, fire trucks, police cars, ambulances all turned up at Hills and Dales at the 1011 Davis Street Center to drop off individually chosen and wrapped Christmas presents for each and every resident, and some money for operations and donations, and hung out and did carols. I wasn't able to hang out with them this year, but 26 years that's been going on. Vicki Leonard, one of our lead public safety dispatchers, now retired, got a kind of a bent here 26, 27 years ago. This would be a nice thing to do. And it's really become a big, big deal. Very proud of our folks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
And Mr. Mayor, I have one more.
Sure, yeah, and then I'll come to you, Ms. Witham. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that we had our last FCC meeting for the 2024 fiscal year of the government, and that we did basically work on the project that was completed for the 2024 cycle, which will get published at some point in time in the future, and that we are waiting now for the new commissioner, Commissioner Carr, to be installed, and then we will have more guidance on the second part of our 2024 project, which will turn into the 2025 project. So I just want to give everybody an update, and it just continues to be a pleasure to serve and represent Dubuque on that committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farber. Ms. Wethel.
On a pretty tragic note, today we heard about another school shooting in Madison. And every time I have a very visceral experience as a parent when these things happen. And I just wanted to share October 24th, there was a meeting at the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque, and it included many of our emergency responders here at the city, many of our staff. It included school leadership, and we had a very helpful conversation, I think, in listening to one another and what the needs are. And the overwhelming response was brain health. It has to do with supporting families. It has to do with supporting resources for children. And I thought a lot about today, just, we think about these things when they happen and we hear them. But I want our citizens to know that I feel our public safety professionals are incredibly ready to serve us if this ever happens in our city. I want our citizens and residents to know that this is something that we are continuing to work to create ways to hold up families and children. I think examples today of our investment in our Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan to create spaces for children to be happy and build community. I think reinvesting in the Ruby Sutton building renovations, additionally, just space for children who maybe after school need to experience a sense of community, have a space, and the city is helping to provide that. And so I want to thank my council members for supporting those efforts. I think they really do work back to this problem that we have to face as a country. But those resources, I think, on a very granular level here in the city, are things that we are doing. And so I really am grateful for our emergency responders, the school leadership that took place that took of their time to join us, and staff. As it relates to the University of Dubuque's announcement, the only other thing I want to drive home is that this generous gift that has been given by the Butler family will change health outcomes for our city, for our county, for our state, and for the Midwest. It is breathtaking that they would be so willing to offer this amount of a gift to our city. So the impact this will have, yes, on our economy, yes, on our University of Dubuque, on our downtown, and the vibrancy it will build, but the health outcomes, that will change our region for generations. So a special thanks to them. Thanks.
Mr. Sprang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the last time we met, I've gone to at least three of my neighborhood associations, the North End, the Point, and the newly formed Alpine Mobile Home Park. So that's been interesting. Those have been fun experiences always, as well as the Mary Millwork Market in the Millwork District was really fun. It was actually warm this year. People weren't chilly like the last many years before. And then I've always volunteered a food giveaway, which was a very fun experience in the snow and the sleet this weekend. And the amount of trucks and city staff that were working, I saw them running around. I heard them more likely driving around, just making sure that everybody could get into this car, all the cars could get into this thing where we had over 100+ cars just show up. And the fact that the city crews were making it happen was really phenomenal. There was an art in the neighborhood, kind of in Washington Park at the Lacey Mansion, where there was Fly By Night decided to do an off. Usually they do all their shows down in the Bijou Room, down in Five Flags, but they decided to do something different, so it was nice to see that. So there's always something to do in the city and in the neighborhood, so looking forward to that. And then I know I've had a number of residents reach out to me about Hardix. We're very frustrated, and I understand why Hardix is leaving the neighborhood. They're not leaving the city, just the neighborhood. It's hard to make go when you're dealing with when it takes 3 to 6 months to get paid back when you're dealing with folks that are on Medicare and Medicaid. And that's nothing that we as a city can do. But the building is a concern to me, and I'm hoping at some point that we as a city can help get something back in there. I don't know what that would be, because I just don't want one more empty sitting property on Central, and something that the neighbors really use, that citizens got something out of. So I'm hoping, working with our economic development team and Greater Dubuque, that we can come up with something can go in there at some point. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Well, we have come to the end of our final meeting of 2024. So I'll just say a few things. Just I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately. I can't believe that I've been honored enough to sit in this chair for 3 years already. It does not feel like 3 years. It feels like we have been sprinting ever since we started. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. I know we talk about the challenges that come with that often. And I think that as we end this year, I hope that we prepare ourselves for those challenges. I think you've pointed out some of those tonight. And I will say too, Ms. Wethel, I have taken the opportunity today to reach out to Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway in Madison. Mayor Rhodes Conway has become a national leader among the mayors in the United States. And I definitely feel for her, and we feel for her in her entire community in this on this day. And it's always so incredibly challenging to watch another city become a member of this club that you don't want to be a part of. And I really appreciate the work that you are doing, and the Community Foundation is doing, and our first responders are doing, everyone in public safety, everyone in our school district, to make sure that we do all we can to continue to be a healthy community and not allow this to happen here. But it did happen there today, unfortunately, and definitely are thinking about them. And I let her know that we are here in Dubuque for her and her community in any way that they might need us. Those challenges are many as we look ahead, and I think about them daily. And I think sometimes they keep us up at night, and sometimes they overwhelm the way we think about things. But I have to tell you, one of my favorite opportunities to speak recently was the other day at UD. And a lot of the words that I was able to share came from Mike, our city manager, in an email exchange that he and I had. And he suggested some of the things that we've been focused on, and some of the ways that we are working as a community, and the progress that we're making, and what it really means. I talked about in another recent meeting the renaissance that Dubuque is really seeing. And when I moved away and started watching some of that renaissance begin, I didn't think that when I moved back to Dubuque that we would be in such a position now, talking about what it was like 40 years ago when we were watching the community sort of die on the vine around us, UD included. And I think that when I think about the challenges, what really helps me to be optimistic and more excited about this city than I've ever been in my entire life is just the momentum that we have all created together. Those of us sitting here right now, and those of us those in the community that we've worked with, it's a wave. It's going to be hard to stop at this point. Next year is going to be a really exciting year. But 2026 and 27 are going to be really exciting years. As we see all these things that we're talking about now start to come alive, I can barely wait for it. We're going to have to, because it takes a lot of work to get there, but I can barely wait. It really is an exciting time to be living here, and I'm very, very excited to be a part of this community, and I'm incredibly honored to be working here with you in this role. So with that said, I do wish everyone, and we all wish everyone, a very happy holidays and a happy new year. We're looking forward to seeing you again in the new year in 2025. But before we leave, we have another closed session. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I would City Council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss pending litigation and purchase or sale of real estate.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Wethel. For the record, the attorney the City Council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is City Attorney Krenner Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Sprank.
Aye.
Resnick. Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.